Hey everybody, it's Damien from Guitar Journey here, and today I want to help clear up something that I'm willing to bet a lot of you have been told. And what that is I bet you reach a certain point in your playing and you're looking to go deeper, you're looking to learn more about guitar, more about music in general, and almost inevitably somebody says, hey, what you need to do is you need to learn the circle of fifths. And I'm going to tell you that's not necessarily true. Yeah, there's a lot of information in the circle of fifths, if you know how to read it and if you know where to look for that information. But that being said, it takes some work to really understand the circle of fifths. And I'm going to suggest to you today that putting the work into learning circle of fifths is actually time that you could maybe better spend elsewhere. And that's really why I'm making this video today. Here on the Guitar Journey channel, I really work at trying to help people shorten their learning path. It's important not just to be learning things, or for that matter, even learning the right things, but to be learning the right things in the right order, at the right time, and quite honestly, using our time efficiently. And I really hope today's video does help you to be more efficient in your learning, okay? So first of all, I mean, if you're studying circle of fifths already right now and it's really helping you, really giving you greater insight, well then of course keep doing it. We all have to kind of find what works best for us. And you know, if studying circle of fifths is really working for you right now, maybe you appreciate having more of a visual aid, a visual way of learning, then by all means continue. I'm not telling you not to, but I'm just going to suggest that for many of us guitarists, learning circle of fifths can be a bit challenging, and it might not give us quite as much benefit as we might think it will going in. Why is that? Well, first of all, if you just look at the circle of fifths, there's not too much that's really obvious about it, okay? If you're comfortable reading traditional notation, then I guess you can see which notes are going to be sharped, which notes are going to be flatted in which key, because we see the key signatures associated with different keys. But then again, not a lot of people study the circle of fifths for that reason, so that they can look at varying key signatures and know which notes are going to be sharped or flatted in a given key. Now there is one pretty visual benefit. You can learn relative keys if you know what that term means. And this is actually pretty clear from circle of fifths in a pretty helpful visual way. So that's definitely a benefit. But after that, and I'm really generalizing here, but what most people look at circle of fifths for is like to help with really understanding keys, understanding how notes and chords relate to each other, what chords are found together in a given key, what scales to use with which chords, and so forth. And yeah, you can find a lot of that information in the circle of fifths, but it's really not clear, is it? You don't see that information just jumping off the page at you. Instead, in order to get something really deep from the circle of fifths, it's going to take some work. All right. Let's hold that thought. Let's just put that off to the side, the idea that in order to get any deep information, any really deep information from circle of fifths, we're going to have to put some work in. We're going to have to do some studying. Now, first of all, you may want to ask yourself if you really need to learn circle of fifths, or for that matter, any deep level of theory to begin with, okay? Do you really need it? I say that because the truth is, if you know your chromatic scale backwards and forwards, and you know the notes on your fifth and your sixth strings, you can actually play some really deep stuff just by plugging in chords and scales. Most of your chords, of course, not all of them, but many of them, you can play a lot of chords that have their root note on either the fifth or the sixth string. You know, I can play my A7 bar chord here at the fifth fret rooted on the sixth string, but I can also play this A7 augmented right here. That's kind of nice. And if I change my shape from that A7 augmented slightly, I can turn it into an A major 13. It's in the same place with the same root note on the sixth string. Then I can take that A major 13 and I can move it up 3 frets. And so right here I've got a C major 13. That's kind of nice. I can find a nice E7 flat 9 rooted on the fifth string at the 7th fret. That's nice. Or this kind of interesting sounding B7 flat 5 right here, root note on the 7th fret of the 6th string. You get the idea. I'm doing this just by knowing where the root note of a given chord is on either the 5th or the 6th string and plugging in a given shape. And of course, because none of those chords that I just played involve open strings, I can move the chords all around the neck as long as, once again, I know the notes on the 5th and the 6th string. So, you know, yeah, this right here is a C13. Okay, so this right here is a B flat 13. Okay, and your scales are going to be rooted on the 5th and the 6th string as well. That means I can play D major right here, root note on the 10th fret of the 6th string. And if I want to change keys, I just move the exact same fingering down here, 5th fret now, to become A major. And because I understand relative minor keys, I'm aware that when I'm playing my A major scale, I'm playing the same notes that are found in the key of F sharp minor. And for that matter, because I know my modes, I also know that when I play the same scale fingering, playing the notes that are in A major, also playing the notes that are in F sharp minor, I'm also playing the notes that are in B Dorian, C sharp Phrygian, and so forth. So like I said, you may not need to go any deeper than knowing your chromatic scale backwards and forwards and knowing the notes on your 5th and your 6th strings. If you know those things, you can play some really cool stuff just by plugging in chord shapes and scale fingerings. And if you're cool with this, you can save yourself a lot of time and probably a lot of frustration just by focusing on those things. But if you do want to go further, if you want to take your knowledge, your understanding to a deeper level, I'm going to suggest that maybe you consider that studying circle of fifths is not the most efficient way to get that deeper knowledge. And I want to just be clear about the issue that I have with circle of fifths. And in order to do that, I'm going to give you kind of a silly analogy, okay? Do you remember math class? I mean, it doesn't matter if we're thinking about elementary school or high school, college, whatever. Think back to like taking an algebra test, okay? You remember, it wasn't enough to get the right answer. The teacher would always say, show me your work, right? And the reason is because by showing your work, by showing you know the varying steps you needed to do to solve that equation, that's how you show that you really understand the material, okay? Now imagine, wouldn't this be easy? You know, you're taking a test and you're really allowed to just look at the answer key and just jot the answer down from the answer key, okay? Does that mean you really understand the material? Of course not. You just copied the answers from the answer key. In my opinion, the circle of fifths is a lot like that. The circle of fifths is kind of like the answer key. Okay? And it's the answer key now, assuming that you can decipher it. But it doesn't, even if you can, it doesn't really tell you how you got those answers. So for example, it tells you that the key of D major has two notes that are sharped and that those notes are C sharp and F sharp. But it doesn't tell you why those notes are sharped. It doesn't tell you the whole step, half step, whole step, half step formula that gives us a major scale. Okay? The circle of fifths tells you that A minor is the relative minor of C major, but it doesn't tell you why that is, that A minor is the 6th scale degree, therefore the 6th mode, the Aeolian mode, relative to C major, which is the Ionian mode. In this example, that is. You know, and one more example. I had a student come to me and say, oh yeah, I love using circle of fifths because when I look to jam a blues in a certain key, I can just look at whatever chord is on either side of that key, and when I take those three chords together, that gives me the chords for my 12-bar blues. You know, so by way of example, you want to play a blues in A, you look at the A and you look at the chords on either side of the A, and you're going to get D and E, and when you play a 12-bar blues in A, your chords are going to be A, D, and E, or A7, D7, E7. Okay, fine, that's great, but why A, D, and E in the key of A? Doesn't really say that on Circle of Fifths. It doesn't say that the reason is because D is the fourth chord in the key of A and E is the fifth chord in the key of A. And typically when you play a 12-bar blues, you will play the first, fourth, and fifth chords in that given key. Circle of Fifths doesn't really give you that deeper explanation, the why behind things. I've even had people tell me that they're trying to learn modes from the Circle of Fifths. And I personally think that is just not the best way to go about it. Modes relate to a given major scale. And if you simply learn the modes in order, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like that, you relate those to the 7 notes in a given major scale. And if you do that, you're going to be much closer to understanding the modes than trying to find some weird diagram or something from the Circle of Fifths. Okay, since we're talking about modes, a quick aside. After you get that scale degree thing that I just talked about down, the next thing you really want to do is start to ask yourself, what is the characteristic pitch of the mode? What gives the mode its unique sound? So for example, the Phrygian mode is a minor scale, but with a flatted second scale degree, which is very distinctive. And again, you're not going to find that information in a clear way on the Circle of Fifths. So ultimately, if you like to use Circle of Fifths as sort of a cheat sheet, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, you know, kind of a visual aid, a guide that you can keep on hand and refer to without doing a lot of analysis, that's totally fine. But if you really want to understand music on a much deeper level, the why behind things, think of Circle of Fifths as the answer key, but nothing more. You do the analysis, and then you can check your work against the Circle of Fifths if you want to. Quick example, you want to know the key notes in the key of A major. What you really want to do is apply your whole half, and what you're going to end up with to the key of A, to a root note of A. What you're going to end up with is A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, okay? Then you can check that against the Circle of Fifths to see if you got it correct. But as I've been saying, there's a limit to the deep understanding, the why behind things, that you're going to get solely from looking at Circle of Fifths. Okay, quickly, if you're not going to put all your energy into studying Circle of Fifths, what should you be studying? First, again, I know I said this earlier, you got to know the chromatic scale just backwards and forwards, just as smoothly as you possibly can learn it. Then you want to begin to study scales, the whole step, half formula that I mentioned, and study keys and get to know the chords that you expect to see in a given key. They're going to be based off the scale degrees. After that, get an understanding of intervals, and along with that, begin to understand the concept of function, which is to say how a note or a chord behaves in a given musical context. After that, work on being able to construct chords to identify the specific notes that make up a given chord. Start with triads, then do seventh chords, then do extended and altered chords as well. And this pathway will help you to understand harmonization. It'll help you to understand chord substitutions and also chord scale compatibility, which is very, very important for advanced improvisation. Now that's some hard work. But remember what we said at the beginning of this video. Just learning to look at the Circle of Fifths and kind of get what it's saying, well, that's hard work as well. And for me, I'd rather put the hard work in to get a really deep understanding of how chords and scales and keys all work together, rather than putting the same amount of work into just getting information from a visual aid that doesn't give me the deeper explanation. That being said, once again, like I said at the beginning of this video, find what path works for you, really. Maybe you're a very visual learner and the Circle of Fifths is very comfortable for you. That's really fine. It's totally legitimate. In this and in all things, you need to look at the available options out there, find what works best for you. Like I said at the beginning of this video, it's really important to be efficient in your learning. And I do hope that today's video helps you to be on the best and most efficient path moving forward. Okay, that's what I have for you today. I hope this short video really helps you clarify your path forward, helps you put your time to the best possible use. If you'd like today's video, if you found it helpful, please give it a like and please also subscribe to the Guitar Journey channel. We get so much content here, from playing tips to music theory lessons to backing tracks to videos like this one that help you navigate this awesome journey that we're all on, that is learning and playing guitar. So please hit like and please hit subscribe, okay? Now, if you really like today's video, please buy me a coffee. Buy me a coffee in the link in the description below. And finally, feel free to leave a comment as well. I understand that you might not agree with today's video, and that's totally fine. I'd love for us to have an intelligent, respectful discussion about it. So please hit like, please hit subscribe, buy me a coffee if you want to, and also leave a comment if you would like to do that as well. Thanks so much. Have a great day.